What's currently failing us in our medical model?
My personal belief is that if I were to come face to face with a patient and they share with me all the conditions they have, we do all the objective tests, we get the information, and now I share with the patient, you're in the driver's seat. That means now they have to change their responsibility and their role. They have to become an advocate. As you know, when we talk about working out, how many people are willing to make that sacrifice and changing their lifestyle and taking that responsibility on?
Not many.
Right, so then the role shifts. So the practitioner is there to help support them along the way, but it's been bastardized and abused. Like one of our good friends was in the ER, and you see these people coming repetitively for the same things over and over again. And that's not a win.
Yeah.
Right, but that's how the model's been created. So now these practitioners get in a position, they have to treat that person as presented to them, right? Those people in the ER, they're not gonna talk about, hey, you need to stop this drug use that got you in here, right? So I have to use Narcan on them. Like over and over again, those type of situations where these people are abusing the system because they have not been forced to take personal responsibility for their health. And oftentimes, and some of them they don't know, they can't change, right? But think about the percentage of people that if they had all that information, they knew what they needed to do, how many people would be disciplined to do it? Not very many,
Right.
unfortunately. So it's been abused. So it's not necessarily putting all the stress on the practitioners, but that's the role they've been put into, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Or they chose to participate in, maybe.
So it comes down to personal responsibility,
100%.
much like everything else in our culture, and being willing to take control.
Yeah. Our thoughts affect our physiology. Absolutely 100%, it can be measured. So that's like I was saying before, that's the most powerful thing they can do is really police those things and then get curious about it.
That's the thing is people tend to shy away from it because it's scary to work through those thoughts.
And we feel like we're alone sometimes. I've shared these conversations with you before. You've been able to mentor me through some stuff. I had some stories I was making up in my mind of what I was struggling with at the time. And you shined some light on it. And that's what I'm saying before is like putting yourself around people that they're on this journey too, but that can be supportive because they maybe experienced some stuff before. And it's like, hey man, I got you. Like I get where you're at. And they can see the other side of it because they're already over there. He's like, so you're a chiropractor, you're out here getting injections in your wrist to help you heal. What's the plan moving forward? I'm like, well, so I can heal, get back in the trenches, right, to deliver chiropractic care. He's like, I think you got more to it than that. I'm like, what are you suggesting? What are you talking about? He said, would you be interested in becoming a rep for the company and sharing your story with your colleagues to get this out to the masses to help build this? I said, what does that all entail? He said, well, it'll entail you having a lot more free time and actually reducing your investments on these stem cell procedures. I said, okay, cool, let's continue the conversation. Well, from there, it just basically unfolded where I started using these cells in different parts of my body. So then I could become an advocate. Just like with anything, I think in order for you to really share something, you have to experience it yourself. And in doing that led me down the path of regenerative medicine.
This is Sparta!
Welcome back to Spartan Leadership. I'm your host, Josh Kosnick, and this is your podcast for inspiration, impact, and leadership. And today will be no different. Got another fireside chat because I got a friend in the studio, Dr. InJun Chong. Man, I'm excited to have this conversation.
All right. Well, I'm glad that we're here.
Yeah. Comfy chairs.
Yeah, very comfortable. The whole setting is pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah. We got the lights off outside the studio.
Yeah, it's
just
cool.
Just peaceful. We got the dog laying next to us.
You created something really cozy and comfortable here. Like you said, just getting some information out to people, sharing what we know, and hopefully it's a gift to somebody else, right? So as they go through life, they can navigate the waters in a way that they don't feel alone sometimes.
Well, let me give you a little bit of an introduction too, so everyone knows the expert that we're talking to.
Okay.
So, Dr. InJun Chong is the founder of Reveal Wellness, a regenerative medicine practitioner. I always screw up the regenerative. It just flows off the tongue a little bit odd.
Right.
And a member of our Bridge Builder Mastermind. His work focuses on helping people avoid surgery, avoid pharmaceuticals, and restore their bodies through science-backed regenerative therapies like human cellular tissue products and shockwave therapy. Here's what stands out about my friend InJun, is the courage and clarity he brings to a medical landscape that often pushes symptom management over true healing. While much of the healthcare system is built upon keeping people dependent, he works to restore the body's natural ability to repair itself. So today we're going to dive deep into what's broken in the medical industry and what people can actually do at home to improve their health, the truth about regenerative medicine, and the misconceptions that surround chiropractic care.
Hmm.
We're gonna hit all the hot buttons.
All right, perfect. Let's do this.
Well, let's start with more background because your backstory really sets the tone for what you do, right?
Sure.
So, what was the moment where you realized the traditional medical model wasn't helping people the way you believed it should?
Well, first I got into chiropractic, as you'd mentioned. So I started off as a chiropractor. That's where my training is. And it led me into this path of regenerative medicine and got me down this road, if you will. And oftentimes things happen for us, not to us, is like what I like to say. And getting into chiropractic, I was going as a young child, I got into sports, right? And I injured myself and went to the medical doctor and they prescribed me some muscle relaxers and pain pills. And they really weren't addressing the cause of why I was having that.
The root cause.
Right. Yeah. So it minimized the symptoms for sure. But what that did is led me into further injury. And at that point, I'm like, this is not working. So at the time I was involved with a relationship, a girl was seeing a chiropractor and she shared with me her experience with it. She said, would you like to come along with me and see what they're doing? I said, yeah, why not? Let's check it out. And I went there and I was amazed on the ability of the body's opportunity for it to heal itself if given the right environment. And so I received a chiropractic adjustment and voila, things felt better. I'm like, I'm intrigued. It felt like magic. It almost felt like too good to be true. And so at that point, it encouraged me to follow that lane saying, what is this all about? Let's pull back the curtain. What's really going on here? And it forced me to understand the body a little bit more in a dynamic way on a cellular level of what's happening on a day-to-day basis. And at that point, it was kind of the history was started from there. Then I just dove into it. And at that point, it applied to what I was doing. Because as an athlete, we want to be able to advance and get us, sharpen our edge, if you will. And it helped me then get into that lane of what more is there to learn? And that's really kind of fed into it. And so it came from a, pain to purpose type of thing, like everything I think that I've experienced in my life, unfortunately, sometimes I feel.
Yeah. Well, and then also, so you were in chiropractic for 20 years, right?
23 years, yeah.
Yeah. And you're still somewhat in it, but because every time I see you, you get my neck screwed on straight, even though we might be addressing a different issue.
Yeah, sometimes.
But literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
So you had a major injury as well. You were skiing. Talk about that, because that's really what kind of propelled you into more of this regenerative medicine, if I'm recalling correctly.
Absolutely correct. Yeah, actually, I was in a power boat. So I grew up on a lake off the Mississippi, and in that environment, my friends all had power boats. And so one Sunday evening, we're all out on the river on the Mississippi and cruising along, and the Mississippi is pretty dirty. They call it the muddy Mississippi for a reason. And oftentimes when it's sunny, you cannot see the waves and the depth of the waves. And so we had two different type of waves that we were going to go through. One was from a cruiser, one was from a barge wave. And so they were like a cross wave. And we shut up out of the water when we came down. Unfortunately, we came down in a fashion that was really physically stressful for all of us in the boat. And what I did to balance myself was to stretch my arm out to balance myself, to catch myself. And when I did that, the impact of the force came down and it fractured my distal forearm here and also my upper arm. And at that point, I was like, man, all these years invested, the finance invested, and the passion to want to help people was maybe coming to an end. So it was a really dark place I went through for a while. Like, what do I do now? I bought this building. I have this business building here. Like, who am I? So my identity got a little challenged, like what am I going to be able to offer and what am I able to do here? Not only from a mental standpoint, but from a financial standpoint. And so then it got me basically sitting in quiet. And that's, I think, when all the magic happens, when we sit quiet and sit in that pain, like what the hell is life going to be like now? And in doing that, it encouraged me to dive into other ways to help my body heal faster so I can get back into the game. Because I thought that's what I had to do, as opposed to truly learning the lesson that was provided to me. And in doing that, I found a practitioner just got into stem cell therapy. He was doing stem cell injections to help the body heal and recover faster. And he was more into structural integrity because he was a chiropractor as well, but focusing on how to restore the body to its functionality and the curves of the body, more focused on scoliosis correction. And my sister had mentored him. She's a physician that's scoliosis expert. So she introduced me to him. And in doing that, then I said, well, let's check this stuff out. What is this all about? And that's when I first I was a recipient of stem cell treatment. And at that point, it was the same thing like how I embarked on chiropractic, the wow factor. Like, this is amazing. This is almost like too good to be true. Same as chiropractic was my first experience. And at that point, like, how do I then utilize this to help my body heal, but how to bring that out to everybody else? And as oftentimes happens, one visit I was out there and the rep was there. So I got to talk to the rep and he's like, hey, what's your story, man? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, so you're a chiropractor, you're out here getting injections in your wrist to help you heal. What's the plan moving forward? I'm like, well, so I can heal and get back in the trenches, right, to deliver chiropractic care. He's like, I think you got more to it than that. I'm like, well, what are you suggesting? What are you talking about? And he said, would you be interested in becoming a rep for the company and sharing your story with your colleagues to get this out to the masses to help build this? I said, what does that all entail? He said, well, it'll entail you having a lot more free time and actually reducing your investments on these stem cell procedures. I said, okay, cool. Let's continue the conversation. Well, from there, it just basically unfolded where I started using these cells in different parts of my body. So then I could become an advocate. Just like with anything, I think in order for you to really share something, you have to experience it yourself. And in doing that, that led me down the path of regenerative medicine. And unfortunately, the company that I was affiliated with, they were sourcing their product from some other place. And some of the vials got contaminated and people developed some illness from it. And at that point, the FDA really kind of threw up their flags like, hold on a second here. So that's why you see people get confused on stem cell therapy and what it really is and the risks of it, because oftentimes these products were not sourced from a reputable place and things can happen sometimes with that.
Yeah. So how do people discern now? Because there is a lot of confusion about stem cells. In fact, you know, I told you about the couple that was going to go to Mexico, right? Because they thought that they had to do it outside the U.S.
Correct.
What are some common misconceptions and some real truths about stem cell?
So people think that they're unable to receive stem cell therapy in the U.S., and that's completely untrue. The reason that the overseas clinics are getting the attention is because they're using somewhat marketing with it, because they're saying there's a certain cell count. So people think it's about the cell count of what they receive that helps their body heal and recover. And it's really not about that. It's about these cells going into your body and signaling your body's own cells to go into a reparative process, more of a youthful state. And so over there, they expand these cells. So they actually take them, they harvest them. Well, in the US, we're not allowed to do that. It's illegal. When you manipulate the cells, now you're creating a drug. Now you're creating some other source that's not allowed legally here in the US. So the cells that we use in the US are non-manipulated cells, and they're basically birth tissue that oftentimes is biological waste. So when a woman has a child, they usually take that product, the umbilical cord and the placenta, and they throw it in the trash, the biological trash, right? So what they're doing is keeping them. And now actually, if you have a child, you can actually take those and put them in a tissue bank and use that for your child's life for the rest of its life. And so technology is really advanced from when I first received my first stem cell injection. But what's happening is people are getting confused because they're seeing these high cell count numbers and they're thinking they're getting more value, right? So it's about quality, not quantity per se. So here in the US, we're able to do it. It's observational studies, research purposes only, just as a protection, saying there's no guarantees. We're not trying to cure something and diagnose something and then give these people false hopes, if you will. Right. So the hopes is saying we can put these cells into the body will recognize these cells, not as foreign material, but as a part of what their DNA would offer naturally. So they're immune privileged cells. So they can put it into the body, they give the body the opportunity to signal those cells, much like how these peptides are working, helping the body to go back in that youthful state and allowing those switches, I call them, to turn back on.
Yeah. So give yourself as an example. What did the stem cells do for your arm? Because from me knowing you, like, it was a threat that you couldn't practice chiropractic any longer after that injury.
Right.
What did it really do for you so people can get like a real world perspective?
Sure. In the beginning, with anything, people, always driven by either pain or pleasure. Right. And so I was having a lot of pain with that in my wrist and my arm. And it was very painful because I had, I totally shattered my wrist and really snapped this off in half. I should show you the pictures, actually. It's pretty wild to see that. Right. But what happened is when I got the cells in, I was like, is this really going to help? But what happened is it actually reduced inflammation and pain. When that starts happening, the body can go into that repair process because it's designed to protect us. That's what the body is designed to do, right? So if you roll your ankle, it gets swollen. It's preventing you, Josh, from moving forward and causing more damage. So what these cells do is we can shut some of those signals down to allow the body to go in the healing state a little bit faster. So the first thing was reducing pain and inflammation. And then from there, triggering the body to go in that repair process and speed it up. So that was my personal experience with my first injection.
And what was the duration where you were able to speed that process up?
It took like 3 months before I was like, is this really happening? Is it really working? And it just shift the corner. So that 3 to 4 month period of time where I was like, whoa, this really does work.
So essentially you go from potentially not being able to practice chiropractic anymore to 3 or 4 months, you're turned around and able to go back to work.
Yeah, and start using it again. It was completely wild. Like there again, like I said, is this science fiction? Is this really real? And as the process unfolded, it just kept getting better and better. Then I can get back into lifting weights and doing things and started using it. And then at that point, the body says, okay, cool, we're ready to go.
Now the scar on your arm, did they suggest surgery? Did you have surgery? Or?
I did have surgery. Yeah. I had an external fixator. So when this shattered, what ended up happening is they had to put an appliance here to keep it straight so it'd heal straight. Because it was what they call a swan deformity. So it almost looked like an S. It was the wildest thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's good stuff because now you're using stem cells in all parts of the body
Correct.
and seeing amazing results. And you
Yes.
told me a fascinating story just 2 days ago
Yeah.
about the woman with MS,
Yeah. So they're having IV, ALS actually.
ALS. That's right,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So that woman was, for the past 5 years, was able to really talk or say any words at all. And she received IV stem cell treatment. And her husband was really crying that she started saying words on the way home. It was just
single
amazing.
words, right?
Just single words.
But hadn't
not
spoken a
sentences.
word in 5 years.
Correct. And so we're seeing so many other, so we have a group of practitioners every Friday to get together and we share with one another what's going on in the space. But it's fascinating to see all this stuff unfold now. But there again, observational, research purposes only, because we're not guaranteeing these things, because we don't know how the body's going to respond. Because we could have things going on internally that we don't know systemically is going on. And those cells, when they're put into the body, they're like magnets, if you will. So they travel along blood vessels to areas where there's cell disruption or cell inflammation. And what happens then is it turns those cells back on and also helps shell and get rid of the debris of the cells that are dysfunctional. What happens when we start turning things on and starting healing, it's really the cause of most things in the body is inflammation. And oftentimes we don't know until we get to the point where the cell count's so high, now it's a diagnosable condition, right? So nothing is just it's a disease and leads to disease, if you will, right? So over time, we can have stuff going on that we have no symptoms. We don't even know. So when we put these cells in the body, we don't know what the primary concern would be of utmost importance for what our neurology tells us, because the nervous system runs and regulates everything. So that's why it even goes back to the foundation of chiropractic, because our brain, spinal cord, and nerves, they give us information all day long throughout the day. And there's primary reasons of why it's doing what it's doing that oftentimes are, like I said, already pre-programmed. It's an unconscious. So when we put those cells in the body, a person could have something going on that's not even contributing to the symptoms that they're expressing at the moment of time, that there's a primary concern. And the body go in there, starts repairing that. So homing basically is what it homes in on the ear, like a 911 call.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah.
No, that's amazing. What's the beef between doctors and chiropractors?
Well, more specific question.
Well, it's funny. Like I want to get into how the medical industry is kind of failing us in one sense, but I just had that thought come to mind because I've heard it, seen it before.
Yeah.
It seems like the medical industry, well, I'll just say like they like to say chiropractors are quacks.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have gone to as much schooling,
Yeah,
if not
absolutely.
more. And especially what I've noticed about chiropractors, whether it's the one I've used for years, you and any others, I find that you guys have a far more inclusive knowledge of the body than as far as like how to treat it, fix it, as far as from the nervous system is concerned. You and I go into the gym together, understanding muscle and muscle building, all the different things. Like I've just found you guys to know much more about body than the doctors and that I'll go see general practitioners are just looking for something to fix.
Well, I'll answer your question this way. Chiropractic appreciates the body's ability to heal itself. I'll never take credit for healing anyone. I'm not doing that. Your body's doing that. I'm removing the interferences. So if there's interferences in your nervous system of how that brain is regulating information back and forth, then we have to remove that interference, right? So I want to empower the patient because your body is the one that's doing everything, right? So what ends up happening sometimes is with the training is when we're in the medical model of thinking, if you will, we're looking for something to treat a condition or symptom. That's the training, right? So a person expresses something on labs or whatever they're coming in for. We want to find a way to suppress the symptoms so the body can kick in to heal itself. So give it a little bit of a break. That's really what it's designed to do. Medicine was never designed to heal anyone. It's to remind the body to give it a chance to suppress the symptoms that it's being stressed with, right? So the philosophy with it's been kind of bastardized. So the difference between the medical model and the chiropractic model is the philosophy. And the philosophy that we embrace is the body's ability to heal itself, removing the interferences and the toxicities and supporting the deficiencies. That's really what it comes down to, simplify the question. Yeah. And the medical model is designed a little bit differently. That's all.
Yeah, I just see so much congruency that I don't know. I've never understood the beef.
Well, it comes down into the model of how the insurance industry has helped shape that into a business where a lot of my colleagues that are medical doctors, they have been shackled by that and their ability to practice medicine the way they intended to when they went out and to help people. Because we all are here to, doesn't matter, DR means teacher really, right? And so as we go out there, we're going out there to serve, but oftentimes we get into these institutions, hospitals, we're then forced sometimes to follow the rules and regulations within that parameter that's in a coding system. Well, that's not really appreciate the individual that's in front of you oftentimes.
Yeah.
And a lot of these practitioners are leaving practice because it's quite frankly, they have great hearts. They want to heal too, but oftentimes they're restricted what they're able to do.
Yeah.
If they can't code it, they're unfortunately unable to render the service.
So to break that down for those that may not know, if they can't code it, they can't bill it.
To the insurance.
To the insurance,
Correct.
which gets them paid.
Yep.
So just to break that down for anyone that wasn't following what he was saying.
Yeah. So I tell people is that, if they come in, for example, I have a lot of people that come in with some structural stress. So they believe they may have a disc herniation. They believe they may have something going on with their structure. And so they say, well, let's go to the gold standard. How do I get an MRI? When they go in, they have to go through the process before they can deliver them the studies. Because that's the model.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so in order to play the game, if you will, they have to follow that process to do that, as opposed to just going in there and getting some definitive study and say, okay, now what do we do?
Yeah.
So
whereas like Ben Shortreed was on the show a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
and he was telling me about a place he got an MRI in Chicago for less than $1,000.
Yeah. We have them those here in Madison as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I
they're
don't have to
walk-in
travel.
centers. Yeah. Nope. And hopefully we don't have to go through that stuff, right?
Well, I want to, because I've been talking to you about like just the pains I get,
Yeah, on your
from my shoulder to my knee, to my arm that we were working on, just to figure out where the root causes are and be like, all right, which one do I need to attack first so that I can not have pains as I'm trying to grow in the gym?
Yeah, as technology is advancing, there's a place in Chicago also that does whole body MRIs. So
That's the one he was talking about.
We're not even just checking about particular joints. We're checking organ systems too. We're checking connective tissue to see what's going on, to be preventative, even checking the brain then too, to see if there could be concerns that we have that haven't then shown their face or shown their ugly face yet, so we can be more proactive with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and using the technology that way.
Yeah, that's the one I was most interested in. And, that can be scary for some because you don't know what's underlying there.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, we all have cancer in our body. It's a function of, is it popping up where our body's not fighting that cancer? And that's when it actually gets a diagnosis, when the body can't fight it itself.
Well, I encourage you in all these different categories, cancer being one of them, those are just a compilation of dysfunctional cells. So whatever that diagnosis may become, right? So it's those cells becoming rampant or radical cells that accumulate to a certain number, and now we put it in a category. So everything comes down to cell dysfunction. So I'd help people, I hope, and I do help people to understand that we're a conglomeration of cells. And if those cells are keeping checks and balances, the body is able to adapt to its environment called homeostasis. If we aren't able to do that, now we get these cells to build up, to develop into different conditions, which are dis-ease leading to disease. Now we categorize it with a name.
Yep.
That makes sense?
Told you I was going to get you in your zone of genius, man. So when you talk about the medical industry, and I think it's failing people, I won't put that in your words, but what do you think that is truly wrong with the current medical model and not embracing some of the regenerative therapy? Is it coming from the top? Is it because of the FDA and all this stuff? Or is it the schooling that the doctors go through or is it the hospital and insurance system? Is it everything in between? Like what's currently failing us in our medical model?
My personal belief is that if I were to come face to face with a patient and they share with me all the conditions they have, we do all the objective tests, we get the information, and now I share with the patient, you're in the driver's seat. That means now they have to change their responsibility and their role. They have to become an advocate. As you know, when we talk about working out, how many people are willing to make that sacrifice in changing their lifestyle and taking that responsibility on?
Not many.
Right. So then the role shifts. So the practitioner is there to help support them along the way, but it's been bastardized and abused. Like one of our good friends was in the ER, and you see these people coming repetitively for the same things over and over again. And that's not a win.
Yeah.
Right. But that's how the model's been created. So now these practitioners get in a position, they have to treat that person as presented to them. Right. Those people in the ER, they're not going to talk about, hey, you need to stop this drug use that got you in here. Right. So I have to use Narcan on them. Like over and over again, those type of situations where these people are abusing the system because they have not been forced to take personal responsibility for their health. And oftentimes, and some of them, they don't know, they can't change, right? But think about the percentage of people that if they had all that information, they knew what they needed to do, how many people would be disciplined to do it? Not very many,
right?
Unfortunately. So it's been abused. So it's not necessarily putting all the stress on the practitioners, but that's the role they've been put into, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Or they chose to participate in, maybe.
So it comes down to personal responsibility,
100%.
much like everything else in our culture,
Yeah.
and being willing to take control.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But there's now, there's also money involved, right? Like I can afford to go get that full body MRI.
Mm-hmm.
Others that may need it don't have that affordability to do it.
Correct. But there are simple things that they know that they're doing that they shouldn't be doing. If they remove those, they could reduce that inflammation throughout their body, that could reduce that process, so they're not getting themselves to that physical state, if you will.
So say more, because you're doing that currently. 2 nights ago, a couple of the guys were having drinks. I offered you one. You said, nope, I'm clean right now. I'm getting my mind and body right.
Right.
So say more about what they can do to take personal responsibility.
Well, as we know, is that the most important things, air and water. People don't even know how to breathe correctly. So the air that we breathe is not 100% oxygen. If anyone's ever been up to altitude, and I've a couple times I've done that, and I got altitude sickness. They put straight oxygen on me. Boom, all of a sudden now I can think clearly again. I can function properly, because what happens is if we're not getting the right amount of respiration in, we stay in a contracted state or constricted state, we're minimizing the oxygen to our brain. That sends information and pathways that lead our choices and the lifestyle that we live oftentimes. And it's a simple thing as breathing. Right? Getting ourselves out of sympathetic mode into parasympathetic mode, right? That affects our nervous system then too. That's just air. That's just breathing. That's just one fundamental thing, right? Going into that practice. Then the thing with water, I mean, that's something that everybody needs. And most people are walking around dehydrated. And our cells need hydration so it can flush things through. As we hydrate and give it oxygen, that's how the cell functions. If we deprive it of oxygen and water, it dies. For example, if I told you I was going to cover your nose and your mouth, how long would you let me do that for? Not very long.
Not very long, no.
Right? So if I took you in the desert, right, and you're restricted with the water, that's a high priority then.
Yep.
Right? But we don't think about those things until we put in those situations, and we start to really minimize all the other BS that we think are valuable.
Yeah.
And
dude, before you say more on that, this just came to me. So I told you I went on my Bible study trip a week ago, and we did a mission trip just where we served their community, served lunch, and so we split off into groups, and some of them went out to tent encampments and gave them supplies and food and drink. So they had some bubbly water, which he's like, hey, you want some? I was like, hey, do you want me to put these on the cart? Do you want me to put these in the go bags? Stuff of that nature. He's like, no, they won't drink them. I said, what? I love these things. I love sparkling water. And they're just doling up, Cokes and Pepsis, and actually no Cokes, because Pepsi sponsored that specific one.
Okay.
But any Pepsi product
Sure.
was all just stuffed in the go bags, and that's what they served at lunch and all that. And I was like, are you saying so these people are homeless. This is the only spot they're getting their meal. They're getting their stuff, and they're only drinking soda. I'm like, man, that's crazy.
Why do you think that is?
That's a great question. I think it's calories, flavor, sugar, right? Some stuff of that nature where, if they don't have food, they have the soda in their hand, at least they're getting some taste, would be my guess.
But they're getting some physiologically from it too, right? Because those sugars are activating different things where they're actually feeling some vibrance, and they're probably in the state where they're feeling depleted most oftentimes, right? And what does that sugar do, as you and I, know?
Spikes.
Yeah, but it's short-lived, right?
Yeah, very
It's that instant gratification, just like everything else.
Yeah.
Right? So if we're going to truly hydrate the body, it takes time to hydrate and rehydrate the body, right? If we get that quick fix, what happens? It now becomes an addictive type of thing, because those things that are in there also, not only the caffeine, but also the sugar is there. And now there's an association or relationship. You'd be surprised that so many patients that I work with in the regenerative space, I tell them, when we're working with you, we have to minimize the insults. And one of the biggest insults that here in Wisconsin that people like to consume is alcohol.
Yeah,
Beer, all of it. And I say, I really need you to commit to doing this so I can get the best outcomes with you. They say, you know what, Dr. Chong, I'm more than happy to continue to pay you. I don't want to remove that because it's a necessity that I don't want to stop doing that.
You think, oh man, it's so crazy.
That's the truth.
They literally say the word necessity.
Yeah, that's part of their lifestyle.
No, I get it.
Because that's their socialization.
Yeah, absolutely. In Wisconsin, we know that. But just think about that. I'm going to pick up this water bottle real quick, even though that's not what we're talking about, but it's a good example. So that alcohol drink that they say is a necessity, they're saying this thing that's in their hand, this inanimate object, has more power over them than they do themselves. And that's what's fucking crazy, right?
Well, this is the crazy part. So I spoke at an event.
It's an inanimate object.
Well, this is what happens. So I say that owns them. So I say you're a bitch to that, whatever that inanimate object is.
Yeah.
You're a bitch to that. That owns
Whether
you.
it's a slice of pizza, a drink in your hand, or whatever it may be. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're running through that unconsciously, not taking personal responsibility, because that's become a habit for them too. But that relationship is so strong. And then the chemicals on top of it, because honestly, we could change that to whatever chemical we want to, but there's that habit, just like with smoking cigarettes, that if you talk to people that have been doing it for a long time, it's just kind of a habit, right? Yeah. But there's a chemical relationship then too, that bond there as well. I mean, you got so many people taking so many different things that are consuming. They were using the beginning phases to get them by temporarily, not as a long-term plan. Just like prescription medication, people get a prescription. The goal should not be forever. It's to get them out of the ditch, back up on the road, so they can reestablish a new normal, so their body can get back to the healthful state.
Yeah.
But it gets bastardized. So not even just the medical model, but even the food and drink.
Yep. Yeah, we were conditioned and brainwashed from birth to be consumers of not good stuff. And I even when my kids were watching football, I point to the commercials like, why on earth would there be pharmaceutical commercials during this football game? Like, what are they pushing? And then at the very end, I'm like, hey, listen to this. Can cause anal bleeding, can cause this, and this. And then like, why would you want that? But like, why are they even allowed to push it? But then if you look at it between NFL's the most watched sport or thing on TV. If you did a percentage of the commercials, because I ChatGPT'd this, just out of curiosity, over 60% are pharma, fast food, and what was the other one? Oh, there was another major category that was really unhealthy, but it was over 60% of the commercials. And it's the most viewed programming on TV.
That's what TV is programming.
For, alcohol. Alcohol was the other one. Alcohol, junk food, and pharma.
So I assume that many of your viewers probably have been overseas. So I had the opportunity to go over to Korea. So I'm half Korean, and I got a chance as an adult to go to Korea, and we were able to view what's on their broadcasting networks. And the time I went over there was nutritional drinks advertised on there. There was no alcohol. There was no drugs. And then I had an opportunity also to go to Germany when I was back in 2002, and the same thing. They were promoting health promoting type of things on their broadcasting centers. And what ends up happening is that because of money, because of the influences, that's what oftentimes happens. But the best part about it is knowledge is potential power. And if we apply that knowledge, then we can make a choice. Right?
Yeah, I love how you put that, because knowledge is only power when it's put to use. Knowledge in and of itself isn't power.
No, it's just information.
That's right. I should have started with this, but could you break down regenerative medicine in plain language so people could really get a grasp of what the definition is?
So even the word regenerative in itself is restorative. Just like people that are doing regenerative farming, it's getting it back to that natural state so that area can thrive. So for using in farming, for example, so we can have a very robust crop or harvest, same thing with our body, putting it back to that restorative state. What it knows already what to do.
Yeah. No, that's great. I should have started with that as we got into this conversation, but hey, I got it in there.
That's right.
So I want to talk about how you've helped me, because there's a lot of different areas that you can work on in your world. And people have asked me, they saw some of our videos and they're like, hey, what the heck was that guy doing to your shoulder?
Oh, yeah.
And so the Shockwave, otherwise known as the truth teller.
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that, because it's very fascinating. The analogy I use for anyone that's had any tattoo work, I have a tattoo on my ribs. And on the ribs, it hurt quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
In between the ribs, not so much. But the truth teller, when it finds a damaged area, it hurts. If there's no damage in the body, it doesn't really hurt.
Yeah.
Like you just feel the pulse. So talk a little bit about that. What's it doing for me?
So let's clarify this. So shockwave therapy is become a craze, and for helping the body to go into a repair state or phase. Okay. But there's many different types of shockwave. So the shockwave that were used on you was electromagnetic.
Yeah, because there's a pulse wave out there.
There's several different businesses or several different brands, but it's coming down to how is that delivered, right? So there's something called a radial shockwave. It's more of a mechanistic way of we're actually causing tissue damage with that particular shockwave, right? To break up some tissue, whether it's muscle tissue or even using it for erectile dysfunction, breaking up plaquing in the penis. All right. Then there's also electrohydraulic, another source of shockwave. The one I'm using is
drop in their plaquing in the penis real briefly.
Yeah. So if they can break up some of that, it allows that blood flow to that organ to function for these individuals.
Gotcha.
Amongst other stuff too, but they're using
you
marketing.
You just subtly said that, and I know someone was going to catch it.
I'm just used to that. I mean, that's just, people talk to me about Shockwave, and we have people that we use the Shockwave at the clinic that's used for that, along with their labs as well, to figure out, physiologically what's going on with them, right? To help their body restore to more of a functional state so that organ system works correctly.
Yeah.
So the Shockwave that we used on your shoulder, for example, is electromagnetic. And as we know, all of our cells have a charge, all right? And I use the analogy often with patients. I said, if you were to have a heart attack, would you want me to use these AED paddles? And they said, well, hell yeah. I said, why would I use something electric on something that's not electric? So the electromagnetic device I use on your body as we're scanning, when that particular wave is put into the system, it bounces off your cell membranes. And our cell membranes have that positive negative charge, okay? If the cell membrane is healthy, it can deflect that without any symptoms.
Yeah.
If it
and
comes
that's why it doesn't hurt on cells that are healthy and
cells
hurts
that are
on
healthy.
cells that are not.
Yep. So those cells are more robust and they're more resilient as opposed to a dysfunctional cell. So it helps me navigate in a diagnostic way where the trouble may be, where that inflammation or that cell dysfunction is. Because all it is cell dysfunction.
Yeah. And for everyone if you've had a child or watched your wife go through sonogram, that's kind of what it looks like and feels like, because you're using the same type of jelly.
Yeah,
right?
we use ultrasound gel as a conductor so we can get those waves into the tissues. But and people say, well, what's the difference between that and muscle stem or what was the other thing that people try to control? I can't even think of it now. I lost it. But other technology to help with helping tissues heal. And so oftentimes what happens is people get confused on what the technology is offering. What this is going in is signaling the body. When I go into those areas, I'm basically calling an SOS call to that area to say all hands on deck to repair this area. But the difference with the device we used on you is it's a handheld lithotripsy. What that means is it will break down any calcifications and it will metabolize and help mobilize those out of the area to start that healing process again, to bring your actually dormant stem cells to that area and increasing blood flow to that area so we can remove the metabolic waste and then bring nutrients into that area to help that reparative restoration regenerative process to occur.
Yeah. No, it's helped a lot. Now I have some more difficult damage in there to fix. I need to, work on that some more. And we've talked about peptides and we've talked about stem cells, stuff of that nature. Let's go into the peptide world real quick, because there's a lot of craze around peptides. How do people know if they're getting the right ones, or maybe go into some of the more popular ones that you're seeing most effective use in?
So if we do, like with anything, we should do some testing, because if you cannot measure it, you can't manage it, right? So figuring out where there might be some deficiencies or toxicities, and then figuring out what's going to be supportive for their cell physiology to get back into that functional state, back to homeostasis, right? So some of these are being abused, unfortunately, and then it's giving a bad rap.
They're being slanged all over the internet.
Unfortunately. And some of these places they're sourcing these products are not the best sourcing either. And so people are getting misinformed. And because those are for research purposes as well, oftentimes what people are doing is they're manipulating some of these things in such a way that's not really health promoting, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to any type of dis-ease process, it usually develops from cell dysfunction and cellular inflammation. That's the source of everything. So if we can minimize that inflammation and allow the body to go again, like I said, to go back to that restorative state where it's that opportunity for your body to go into homeostasis.
Yeah. To get back to homeostasis.
Correct.
Like what we felt like before we had the injuries, the traumas, the strains, all that different stuff.
But also another thing too, and sorry to interrupt you before I forget this, because we're consuming the things we're consuming, we are playing with chemicals. Every time we eat the foods we're eating now, because they're processed foods, every time we drink something. So what ends up happening is we are intelligently choosing other chemicals to combat the chemicals that were provided here in this country. We are trying to balance that out on our own oftentimes, and that's where people get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. What I'm thinking about is like the supplement industry, right? So you're thinking about supplements versus peptides. It seems to be very analogous right now on where you get your sourcing from. Because if you just go to Target, for example, for your supplements, every product on that row is owned by one of the big companies, Bayer, Procter and Gamble, whatever. They may have started out, they could say Nature's Bounty on there. Mm-hmm. And yet it's owned by Bayer or P&G or one of the big monstrosity companies that you have no idea. It's a placebo.
Well, it's business, right? So same with Pure Encapsulations. It's a really well-known supplement company. It's a very good company. They're owned by Nestle.
Yeah. Yeah.
These are business people. They're smart. And so they're going to capture the market on this end and this end.
Yeah.
So if I'm giving you stuff to make you sick, I'm going to give you something to get you healthy. Like I win
Yeah.
as a business.
Well, that's what I'm thinking about now with like the peptides and the fights with the FDA and whether it's HGH or BPC or any of the stuff that's self-promoting or even TRT. Like there's a reason your doctor can't code that and bill that for you because the FDA and Big Pharma hasn't figured out how to profit directly from it. So therefore you have to go to Dr. InJun or Dr. Nestor or whoever to get this stuff and you got to pay out of pocket because they haven't figured out their profit mechanism in it yet.
Well, the other part of it too is all this should be personalized. And the only way we personalize is getting data and information from that individual. And that's going to get where you get to the really seeing out where are the toxicities so we can remove them, where are the deficiencies so we can support that. And that when I'm using the word that, meaning your cells.
Yeah.
And there's seasons too. When we have, for example, there's seasons of stress, right? Emotional stress that's going on that's even further from the stress they had from their daily life. For example, going to holidays, you've seen people getting sick. It's not because of the weather here in the Midwest. These people are getting sick in places where it's not cold, right? What happens is we're going into a season where there's more stress or more things put on our plate than what we've been dealing with throughout the rest of the year.
Or it brings up traumas like the loss of a loved one.
Absolutely.
You know, you're missing them at the holidays and you go through a seasonal depression with not getting the vitamin D outside the air
All of it.
and the sun, stuff of that nature. But you were talking about the ozone, the blood ozone?
Yeah,
thing?
ozone UV treatment.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that because you're using that yourself to get through this season.
Yes, we go through for filtration. We minimize the insults with the pathogens that we're exposed to, right? So we can help the system be as robust as possible. So the ozone will clear out any pathogens, bacteria, or viruses. And then we actually go through UV filtration system too to remove that debris as well. So we're basically supercharging our blood so it can be more robust and deal with and manage the things that we're going to be coming in contact with. There's no way getting around it. Yeah. And the one thing that COVID has taught us, which has really been a gift if we choose to look at it that way, is just because we cannot see something doesn't mean that there's not an impact or there's something that could impact our bodies. The air we breathe, the water we drink, the things we come in contact with are invisible.
Yeah. So what is that ozone treatment? It seems to me when I saw your video on it and how you describe it, kind of like an oil change for your blood.
Yeah. It's cleansing in a sense. And that was using before antibiotics. This stuff was used like in the 40s, even maybe sooner. I think the book I have is like in the 40s that they're using that to eradicate those things. And then antibiotics came on the scene and then went off the wayside. And I'm sorry, I should have brought the book with me. I didn't know what we were going to talk about. I didn't know what we were going to talk about today anyways, but I could have gave you more detailed information, but check into that. It's a bloody radiation. So it's been used for many, many years. Yeah. Yeah. So it's not brand new technology.
No, but it seems to be really effective. And like, what does something like that cost if someone was interested?
It depends on what the patient has going on. So to give the best protocol, it's all case dependent.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a range that you could give them?
Typically, they're anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 for a series of treatments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I like to give people perspective, whether or not they want to go through it or not. And that way they know, because none of that's going to be covered by, insurance.
Yeah, self-pay, self-investment. That's what it comes down to. And they're investing in themselves and they're doing those type of things. But along the way, we hope we can educate them. And when we invest in those type of things, people are more compliant to follow through because they're paying their hard-earned money for something. Then they might start making different choices then too. So as we start dripping some things like, how much water are you consuming? What's your food intake like? Having conversation of what their everyday state is like and what choices they're making that are either robbing them of their health or supporting them into their health journey.
Yeah, well, and I think about it because we got a lot of high achievers, entrepreneurs that listen to this show is like, hey, what does it cost you to be out of the business? What does it cost you to not be making sales? Right? So if you're sick and you're not able to pick up that phone, you're not able to do your job, that's a problem. That's going to cost you a hell of a lot more than $1,000 to $1,500 to get this blood ozone treatment done. Well,
what ends up happening is they're trading off their wealth for health, right? And that's unfortunately when it happens. It's reversing back and forth. And sometimes it's irreversible sometimes, right? Because they're chasing after the money and they're exchanging that for their health.
Yeah.
See it so many times. And we've talked about it, with other podcasts that I've been on. It's like, it's a backwards formula sometimes.
Yeah.
Right. And then they get into a crisis situation like, okay, now it's of utmost importance. Well, we could have minimized that time, that stress, and that money and that investment for them if they were a little more proactive and preventive with it. But if they don't know, then we can't really hold them responsible either.
Yeah.
And that's the purpose of providing this, I hope, is to share with your audience of opportunities for them to saying, hey, you know what? You never thought about it that way.
But they just didn't know either.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the thing is, with if anyone wants to do the deep dive on how evil Rockefeller was and how the medical industry came about and antibiotics, which you talked about, but big pharma, like all the natural stuff that we once knew in the 1800s, early 1900s, got buried because the Rockefeller Institute pushed it out of the medical system and defunded or deplatformed anyone that was preaching natural medicine so that they could continue to use pharma, which tied to oil and gas. Right. So we weren't taught that in history class.
Yeah.
We were just told that Rockefeller was some rich guy and not told that he was as evil as he was.
Well, like you said, we weren't taught, there's no owner's manual either, right, for the human body per se, right? So we weren't taught how to really promote and support it to do what it was designed to do. And that goes back to the chiropractic philosophy. I use the analogy, it's a triangle. It's called the 3 T's, thoughts, traumas, and toxins. They determine how your body's adapting to the world and what's really the end product of the life you're truly living and experiencing at this very moment. Yeah. And it all comes down to choices. But if you don't know, then now we're equipping you, hopefully, with this information to make a better choice.
Dude, that's a great pyramid or triangle, if you will.
I can't take credit for it.
Well, no, that's fine though. There's a lot of stuff I can't take credit for, and I try to give credit where credit's due, because we're always learning, or we should be. Thoughts, traumas, toxins.
Correct.
And that has a huge impact on your internal ecosystem, that homeostasis.
Yeah, your current state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gratitude plays a lot into getting rid of negative thoughts. It can literally rewire your brain.
Well, you were talking too about certain things with the holidays. It triggers different emotions. And every time we have a thought, we release a chemical.
Yeah.
Right. And that chemical is just like that IV drip. Right. And as we continue to release those chemicals, we are either health promoting or health destroying. Just with our thoughts. The stuff between our ears. And most of the stuff's not even true.
Right.
It's being played over and over again.
Broken
all day
records.
Long. In the background.
Yep.
And that's why you're hearing people, talking about mindfulness. Absolutely. That's the most powerful thing on all of it. Honestly, if we could remove some of these other things and just really get some training as we're going through the indoctrinating system called the school system of how to harness that.
Which Rockefeller funded.
Right. All these things go
I'm
back
not continue to talk
I
about
get it.
his
I'm
shit.
not even going to participate. That's why I'm just laughing. But I would encourage you, like I said, to really think about just having that ability to harness that. And I always tell people, if my hands worked like my brain, I'd never get any food in my mouth or even hold a bottle because there's just so many rampant things running through all the time. It's just so much noise.
Yeah.
And it's the greatest gift is being able to get in that quiet place and to harness some of that saying, what is true? What do I really know to be true? And then be curious of all these different thoughts and what they're really meaning, what that information is supposed to provide for us. Yeah.
Well, you key on there. Is it true?
Mm-hmm.
Right. We go, so Byron Katie, it's a female. If you look up and Google her and then Google her name and then the work, do this. And she has a brilliant thought paradigm kind of matrix that walks you through that negative thought that you might be having about yourself. And then she works you through, can you be positive that's true? And then she works you through the emotions of how does that make you feel? Well, weak, shameful, guilty, all the negative things that it makes you feel. And then she has you flip the thought and goes, what's the opposite thought? Could that be true? Not more true, but as true. And how does that make you feel? And powerful, strong, and list through emotions that makes you feel like actually works you through this like matrix and gets you past that negative thought and to be finally like, no, that actually was bullshit. Like, that's not true. So it's for anyone that hasn't seen that, Byron Katie did a brilliant job. And it's based on hundreds of years of psychology that she did this work on. And it's incredible. So we used to teach our advisors this all the time. It was powerful because a lot of times the advisors, like they would have a negative thought of, picking up the phone because they're afraid of someone saying no, right? Or asking for the sale because someone may say no. And how do they take that no? Well, as a personal attack. It's not a personal attack, but your mind's telling you that it is. Or it's rejection. It's not rejection of you, but your mind's telling you that it is, right? So we have to constantly be guarding our thoughts and making sure that what we know to be true or questioning what we know to be true. The older I get, I don't know about you, InJun, but the older I get, the more I thought I knew. Yeah, it's not even like, in your mid-20s, 30s, when you're having a high level of success and, you're just young and dumb and egotistical. You're just like, you think you got the balls or the world by the balls. And the older I get, I'm like, I don't know shit.
Yeah. You become curious.
Yeah.
So I'll encourage people to look about it this way. The thoughts that we're thinking, are they self-promoting or self-destroying? And then where do those thoughts come from? And myself, I'm not exempt from this because I have been the last couple of months really getting into some of this myself and doing a reset and thinking about where did all this stuff come from? And I use this phrase oftentimes, it's not what you think. It's not what they think. It's what you think they think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
We get caught in that oftentimes. And then we got to check ourselves and saying, what if we were to think about this way and just play with it? Just imagine. And that's where the fun comes in, the excitement, the curiosity, and we can just shift. Just in that moment, just make that shift. And I've been using this daily for the last couple of months. Like, okay, cool, that's fine. Thank you for the information. That served me at one time, but it's not serving me this present moment.
Yeah.
And if I'm looking and focusing on something different, what will get me to that? Will this get me to that? Is this self-promoting or self-destroying? And it's unfortunate because we get that program from our mothers, fathers, teachers, preachers. That stuff gets passed down to us, unfortunately. And unknowingly they do that until we do some of this self-reflection. We go on this critical thinking where many people don't. Like you said before, they're just programmed by the stuff they're listening to, the stuff they're reading, the stuff they're watching. They're not running it through any type of litmus test. They're not running any type of screening to saying, is this going to help me or is this going to hurt me?
Yeah. In fact, I actually heard John Maxwell say this once, that there is no learning without reflective learning, meaning getting into that silence and actually questioning your thoughts. Is it fair to say that those negative thoughts have a negative impact on your cells?
100% it does. Think about this. If you got bad news right now, what ends up happening? We can measure this. Heart rate goes up. Blood pressure goes up. You can feel your stomach churning. There's a physiological effect. And it could be April's Fools. So I'm just messing with you.
Yeah.
So it absolutely can be measured. Yeah, I know even a few weeks ago, probably 6 weeks ago, I was going to get some blood drawn. And I was going through some stuff, my personal stuff, and they weren't able to extract because I was such a contracted state.
And you got good veins.
Yeah. Couldn't get blood through. And so clearly our thoughts affect our physiology. Absolutely 100%. And it can be measured. So like I was saying before, that's the most powerful thing they can do is really police those things and then get curious about it.
Yeah. And you get that reflection and move through it. That's the thing is people tend to shy away from it because it's scary to work through those thoughts.
And we feel like we're alone sometimes. I've shared these conversations with you before. You've been able to mentor me through some stuff. I had some stories I was making up in my mind of what I was struggling with at the time. And, you shined some light on it. And that's what I'm saying before is like putting yourself around people that they're on this journey too, but they can be supportive because they maybe experienced some stuff before. And it's like, hey man, I got you. Like I get where you're at. And they can see the other side of it because they're already over there.
Yeah. Let's shift gears to a little bit. This is a great comment. We could talk the whole time on this, but I want to get as much juice out of you as possible. So you often warn people about unnecessary surgeries, injections, and how do you pronounce this? NSAIDs? NSAIDs?
Oh, NSAIDs, yeah.
Yeah, NSAIDs.
Yep.
Which are what? Ibuprofens, Tylenols.
Yep, anti-inflammatories. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs.
So what risks are patients not being told about and which conditions are most often treated correctly or incorrectly, I should say?
Well, with any type of surgery, there's risk. There's risk of infection. My mother went through breast cancer and they had to remove both of her breasts. And when doing that, then she, as a woman, I don't know this, but as a woman, they were having breast tissue. That's part of their identity. And then when she went to have augmentation, one of the breast tissue got infected between one of the implants that she had and actually had to go in and scrape off all that infection, but also cut out part of her pectoralis muscle. So she was physically incapacitated from that simple surgery as putting in breast implants.
One of the most severe surgeries I know of is spinal surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting with a acquaintance who happened to work for Stryker, or one of the big companies. He was in sales, and he goes, "Hey, if I leave you with nothing today, take this away from me. Before you have any spinal surgery, make sure that you've checked every possible last resort, because once it's done, you can't ever go back."
Yeah, you can't undo it. Yeah. And the biggest thing about that is, there again, the nervous system runs and regulates everything. Our spinal column is made of hard bone for a reason. Our skull is made of hard bone for a reason. It's protecting something very vital. Our spinal bone's the same way. When we start to go in there and manipulate that and trying to reduce the symptomatology the patient's having by fusing that area per se because of disc degeneration or a trauma or an accident per se, the nerve integrity is compromised oftentimes. And those nerves, wherever they go to, those organs or tissues they go to, is then compromised as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are, and from your chiropractic opinion, from your regenerative medicine opinion, what are you helping people with on back issues?
I haven't dove too much into the spinal work because it's a little more involved with that. From a chiropractic standpoint, obviously, but as far as doing a regenerative medicine work into the spinal column, liability is too high and much more involved in that. So mostly been working with smaller joints for the regenerative medicine. And the Shockwave stuff, we will work with that, but not with the injections. I just haven't done that.
What's the impact of NSAIDs on the body? Because you used to, like, ibuprofen's the only thing that works for headaches for me.
Yeah.
And I don't get them often, but that's the one thing I go to, because Tylenol, Aleve, any of the others don't work. But they all have an anti-inflammatory effect. But what's the negative effect for taking those too often?
Your organ systems. You're stressing the organ to detoxify. What's up happening, then the most important organ that gets damaged, and people don't think about this, is your GI. Once your stomach is affected or interrupted, everything's interrupted. Because if you think about it, this is like a different ecosystem. Our GI, our microbiome, runs and regulates this, and our neurotransmitters.
For those that aren't on video, he pointed to his head.
Okay. Yeah. But so it affects that, right? And so that's the command center.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so if we start to destroy our GI, we're starting to destroy our cognitive function as well.
And
then people in pain,
GI issues.
Yeah. And then when people are in pain, they're cognitively stressed out too, right? When you're in pain, you're not very happy. You don't feel very good.
Yeah.
Right. And now we go ahead and we're suppressing that by reducing inflammation by taking the NSAIDs. But over time, what's doing is deteriorating that. And now those cognitive pathways are disrupted as well.
Yeah.
So it's a short win.
Yeah. The gut-brain connection, more and more science is coming out on that. And it's absolutely fascinating. Like, my audience is aware my father-in-law took his own life, but I don't know that I've shared this too often. He struggled a lot with his GI, his stomach, to the point where he was drinking salt water each morning. He was eating just plain rice to get his stomach coated in the morning. He was trying all the things possible, but I am convinced the struggle he had with his GI drove his mental health issues, plus the business issues he was dealing with at the time. It just, the combination really spurred his unfortunate demise in that regard. The gut, and I've learned more about the gut-brain connection because of that, because I want to understand. I was trying to understand his passing, trying to understand where he was at in that juncture. And there's a lot of more science coming out on the gut-brain connection.
Yeah, gut-brain axis has been out there. That information's out there. It's measurable. What ends up happening is, the terminology has been so abused, it's got bad stigma. People are, talking about mental health years ago, but it's actually brain health.
It is.
It's coming down to how things are functioning. And like you and I were speaking about earlier, every time we have a thought, we release a chemical. And that chemical affects our whole physiology, our whole system. And oftentimes there's a disruption in one of those areas. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul in the short run. All right. So what happens when we start deteriorating the GI, those nutrients that we're supposed to consume to nourish our cells are devoid, and now we're triggering off oftentimes autoimmune responses. The body starts attacking itself. And then when we do that, we shut down all those different, what we were talking about before, those neurochemicals. Those neurochemicals are allowing us to cognitively function correctly. And when we get in these different states, we're in a sympathetic overload, that fight or flight mode constantly. We're not allowing the body ever to repair, to go into that parasympathetic mode, like I was talking about with breathing. That's just some fundamental basic stuff. right?
Yeah.
That neurology runs and regulates everything. So there's a lot of neurology, it's very complex in our GI that tethers back and forth to our brain, giving information. It's a feedback loop.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fascinating. All right. So we're wrapping up here. Again, man, we could talk for hours on this stuff. It all fascinates me. And I just wanted to get a broad spectrum from you because it's not only your genius, but I think a lot more people are curious about themselves, their bodies. They're skeptical of the medical industry. They're also getting all this information on peptides and all this other stuff. They don't know where to go for a trusted source.
Well, I think what's happening too is people have become scared because that model they relied upon so heavily once COVID happened, they realize that no one's coming to save them. It's now they have to do some research, getting some information, wherever they're getting it from. That's the biggest thing is the sourcing of it, right? But they realize they have to do something different now.
Yeah. Well, the scared piece comes with also in conjunction with the distrust.
Mm-hmm.
Because for those of us that didn't believe what we were being pushed about the COVID vaccine and our doctors that were pushing it when we had enough questions about it on our own, there breeds a lot of distrust. And I'm not like, I have some very trusted doctors in my life. That being said, the medical system as a whole, I have a large distrust for because of how COVID was handled. And I think a lot of people share my sentiments, and that's where, you pair distrust with fear and you got a recipe for disaster.
Well, unfortunately, these practitioners were put in those positions, and a lot of them then left the medical model because of that.
A lot of them did, but a lot of them stayed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what, you question the integrity then of those that stayed. And I get it that everyone's got to feed their family and stuff like that, but what line are you going to draw morally if you're not going to draw that one? If you're not going to draw a line at, I'm going to inject someone with a unproven warp speed vaccine that was created in a lab in months, and you're going to inject that into kids, I'm sorry. I don't trust you or your moral compass.
Well, it comes back to leadership though too. Just like all of what you do, it's about leadership. And that comes to all those different personality traits that go into becoming a good leader.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Just the last point I'll make on it is that, look, I think every rational human being is like, protect the elderly or the vulnerable. Mm-hmm. When you start saying we need to inject every perfectly healthy human being, including kids, with something that's unproven, untested, and has not, and when I say unproven, untested, the vast majority of vaccines have been tested for decades upon decades. This was done in 9 months. I know you're biting your tongue, but I'll say what I have to say. You don't have to say it, but that's my whole thing on it. And a vaccine, a former vaccine, was actually something that took away the propensity of you getting it forever. This didn't. So anyhow, we'll get off that topic.
Let's just focus on positive stuff, right? What we can do to nurture the body to heal itself and give it those sources and tools to do that.
All right. So last question before I ask my final one then. You've become a great member of the Bridge Builder Mastermind. And, you continue to seek, you mentioned your peer group of physicians earlier. You continue to seek knowledge and continue to seek understanding. What is it about, what have you experienced in your life that you continue to do that? Because not everyone does. Like, you've been in medicine for 23 years, 25 years. You've had a good amount of success. You're very knowledgeable, very handsome.
Thank you.
And you get, so you got a lot of things, but you continue to seek to grow. What has it been for you to continue to be in part of these groups and make sure that you continue to level up?
To provide value. That's what I think of how I can provide value. Every time I come into contact with somebody, what can I provide value for? And that comes in from childhood stuff, I think, of wanting acceptance initially. That was the start of it. And then going into situations of, how can I be of value to these people that I'm around? That makes it attractive to me because so many people have become valuable to me, and I want to be able to get back and reciprocate that back.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate it because you remain humble. A lot of doctors don't. A lot of people with the DRs, it's interesting. Like in my financial career, I chose not to work with many doctors. I think I had 3 as clients because I couldn't stand the ego.
Yeah.
It's like, I know you went to school for a long time to be a doctor.
Yeah.
However, I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I went to school to know financial planning.
Yeah.
And you don't know more than me. I'm sorry. So I just couldn't. I just chose not to work with doctors because of that ego. So I really appreciate your humility and your willingness to continue to grow to provide that value.
Well, I appreciate you recognizing that. And unfortunately, we go through and those people, then they're paralyzed. And if you break it down sometimes because they're very insecure oftentimes too.
Yeah.
That's what it really comes down to.
Yeah, well, that's what I've always noticed throughout life. And for anyone that wants to understand someone that comes across as arrogant, outward arrogance is the inner lack of security. That's all it is. So when you see someone that has a huge ego, arrogance, outward arrogance, there's something in there that inside of them that's a hurt child. It's an inner lack of security.
Yep.
So, all right, my man, where can people find you? Where can people follow you? If they want to get some treatment done, if they just want to understand this regenerative world better, where's the best spots?
A few different spots, actually. So they can go to the website, revealwellness.life, and also go to matrixregen.com. And just through the social media channels is my name, InJun Chong, DC, Doctor of Chiropractic, Facebook, Instagram. And I mean, if they Google my name, there's not many people out there with the name of InJun.
Yeah.
So is that too hard for the good and bad sometimes?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not as good as I probably could be on, producing things and getting things out there. But it's going to get better.
You're getting better.
Yeah.
You're showing people, showing the treatments you're doing on yourself.
Yeah.
So it's highly fascinating. So I would encourage everyone to follow because it is really one of those things that just for learning and understanding that there are different ways to go about things to heal your body and get back to homeostasis. It's that's what I'm about because I want to live as long as possible, as healthy as possible. I think that's where we should kind of set our mindset in.
But you have to live it though. So for me to go out there and share these things and not personally experience them, that's not the right way to do it. Yeah. Unfortunately, so many people out there with the marketing, they go out there and wave these flags and they've never even had any of these personal experiences. Some people are like, oh, I can't believe you're posting that. That's kind of arrogant or kind of, like you think you're somebody. I'm like, I'm just doing to show people that I'm doing what I'm suggesting for them to do. Yeah. Like I'm getting in these cold tubs. I'm doing that. It's not made up. It's not fake. And you can do it too. Right. So it's not comfortable, like to get in front of the camera and do that sometimes. Like, oh, that whole thing starts chattering. What are people going to think? I'm like, but it's not for them. It's like, how can I be of value going back to that? So I have to stop myself. Like, how am I going to be of value by posting this content or this information? Who is this going to help change their life? And our founder, BJ Palmer, said, we don't know how impactful the things we do or say today may impact the millions later. I kind of mess with the wording, but you get the point. Yep. Whatever we're doing today might impact somebody. We don't even know how far reaching that's going to be and take myself out of it. And oftentimes that's hard to do.
Yeah. It is, especially when you're posting it for the world to see. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people have trepidation around social media that way. But bottom line is you're leading by example, and that's all you can do. Yeah, which is awesome. All right, so I always end with this, and it could be on anything that we talked about or just whatever comes to your heart. But what is an unpopular belief you hold to be true that you think most others disagree with?
We're here for a reason, and our whole purpose should be figure out what that reason is. Yeah, every day. And if we don't continue to search that out, our life is going to come to the point where we look back and think, what was it all worth?
Yeah. That's why so many people either find God on their deathbed or they look back at their life with a ton of regret. No, that's well said.
Yeah. And I always think about, what if it was all wrong? And that'd be a horrible thing to come to that point.
Right at the end. Yeah, absolutely. Man, it's been such a pleasure to share this time together.
Yeah. I like what you created. This is awesome. I appreciate your friendship and bringing me into your circle. Yeah. To me, that was a really great gift that you offered when we first had met. And I shared with you, like, I'm looking for a group of men to get with and to be able to help up level. And you've done that for me. So I'm really grateful for that. And I appreciate you for that.
You got it, brother. Well, Spartans, you know what to do. Share this episode far and wide. Remember, the good and great are the enemies of possible. Lead like a Spartan today.